like this, don't come in a box score. Keenan with the Kel, just give me the rock more. Weather off the glass, nothing but the net. I'ma get you set, pick and roll, we can go with the whole four. Dick Vitale, look at diaper dandy. NCAA with the great handy.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Courtside podcast. I'm your host, Sam Trout. Me is my special guest, the homie Nat. What's up, Nat?
What's up, Sam? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Wow.
You excited to see your least favorite player go down?
I don't like, when anything seems like a sure thing, it always makes me nervous. It seems like everything is like going in the Bucks' way. So it would just be like the universe to not let it happen tonight. So I'm cautiously optimistic. But yeah, I want that little man out of here.
The little man.
Gone.
You can't stand up, man.
No, I cannot. He's awful. I don't understand anyone who's his fan. And if you are his fan, it's like, I gotta question you.
I mean, I'm a fan. I'm not a stan. You wouldn't believe the excuse I was getting.
You're a fan of Chris Paul. How's that possible?
Yeah, I grew up watching Chris Paul. It's just, I don't know.
You're a Celtics fan. If you rocked with Rondo, you cannot fuck with Chris Paul.
That is very true. I'm still on Rondo now. I'm still on Rondo.
Yeah, me too. Like, we don't fuck with Chris Paul. Like,
I got a wave of Rondo tweets in the tuck tonight. Don't even worry about it. We here.
Yeah, just get off that little short man.
Let him go home. We empty in the clip. Don't worry about it. But now you a Warriors fan, though, right?
I am a Warriors fan. I'm not even on the low, really. I'm also like the C's are my East team. I really like the Celtics. I've always been, well, not always, but I've been a Celtics fan too a little bit for a minute.
That's what you from New York.
Mm-hmm.
So how was the New York Dubs
fan? Have you seen the Knicks?
I have.
I mean, to be honest, it's because I have grown up, like I'm from New York and I've spent most of my life in New York, but I grew up in South Florida. So, yeah, I mean, when I lived there, there was no heat at the time. At least when I was really young, there was no Orlando Magic. So when you live in a place where there's not really a team, you kind of just pick whichever team you like. So I actually was like, I mean, we supported the Knicks still because we were like from New York, but those were like when the Knicks was good, like Ewing and them guys, So we, I supported the Knicks, plus Patrick Ewing was Jamaican, so it was like a no-brainer. But my guy was Magic Johnson, and so therefore I was honestly a Lakers fan, I did like Michael Jordan too until he beat the Lakers, and then I hated him after that. So that was kind of like my original love for basketball. But then over the years, like admittedly, I was not like a big Kobe fan, and after Magic, I just never really loved the Lakers like that the same. And plus, I was younger, so a lot of that is like, what your brother likes, what your family likes, so you just follow. So it's like my brother was, a Lakers fan, and he still is, but it was like my brother was a Lakers fan and loved Magic. My brother was also a 49ers fan, and so I was a bit of a tomboy, but it was like whatever my brother liked, I liked. So just when I grew up, like I kind of just developed like my own taste for like the players I liked and the teams. And I really did like the iteration of the Celtics that had like, the big three and Rondo. I loved them. I fell in love with them. And ever since then, I've always rocked with the Celtics. I've liked what they've done, even though Ainge is gone. And I do think it was time. I love the players they drafted. I always loved the Brad hire when it happened. So, that was that. But then like my team on the West was the Warriors. And I always go to like games on the East Coast. Like, so a lot of times, like I would drive up to Boston and I would go like watch the Celtics play the Warriors. I hate those games. But yeah, I mean, I just, it is because of Steph, but I'm not just a Steph fan, and I make that distinction because they're always like, oh, Steph stands, whatever. Like, I'm a Paul George fan. I've never been a fan of like OKC. I've never been a fan of the Clippers. Like, I'm just a Paul George fan. But like, no, with Steph, it was more like, it was something about him. And then like, so I would just watch him play all the time. So then like you're watching him play all the time. So you see Clay developing, you see, Dre come along, they get Iggy, so you see all those things happen and you just kind of like fall in love with the team. So I definitely have been on the Warriors before the championship started. But yeah, it was Steph that drew me to them. And so it's like the Warriors and Celtics, and those are my two teams.
Those two. Oh, wow. Them little matchups must be stressing you out when you watch them.
Yeah, I don't like it. I mean, I'm always gonna still root for the Warriors, but if the Warriors are out of it, the Celtics will always be the other team I'm rooting for. So yeah.
You ain't never go back to the Nets, huh? They won't move you. Julius Randle don't move you.
I mean, if I fuck with a New York team, it's the Nets, but I can't mess with this iteration of the Nets. Not while James Harden is on it. So
see, I rock with James. See, I like James. I can rock with Kyrie for
no. Yeah, I know. Derek, like I already know how y'all.
Harden is a nasty man, so you don't get it twisted.
I don't fuck with that man. And I have like a love-hate relationship with KD, like his game, I like you have no choice but to respect it.
Yeah.
He was just a lot to handle.
He is a lot. He's a funny guy, though. Yeah. Y'all just had him in the. Did you talk to him when he was in the space with y'all?
So I didn't talk to him directly, but I did speak. That situation was really interesting. And I don't know that a lot of people actually know the genesis of it. So people came in at the middle if you weren't on from the beginning. And I think that brought on criticism that people, like, if they actually knew like how everything got started, maybe there would be less criticism. So
it got started with the blogger, right? The Andy guy.
Yeah. Is Andy a blogger? Is that how he's known?
I don't know. I assume everybody's a blogger.
I see. Yeah. So it was a tweet that Katie replied to, respond to, to Andy. I don't even remember what Andy was responding to because he was also, I think, quoting something. But like, to paraphrase him, he was saying something along the lines of like, Katie thought like we had more love for Steph or didn't like, they're like just kind of referencing that. And he's like, he still thinks that, but like Warriors fans always loved KD. We didn't have like any issues with him. And then Katie responded to him and was just like, you just be making stuff up,
Yeah, I saw that.
And then that time he had day. That day he had time. And he just kept responding to like, a lot of different people. So Urkel, I think everyone knows who Urkel is. If you're part of NBA Twitter, he's like, yo, if I started Spaces right now, it'll probably do numbers. Like, now I don't know that he really thought it was going to do the kind of numbers it did, but he did have like an inclination. And so he started the Spaces and we were in there talking about what had transpired for the day. And we were talking about Katie. And actually, at that point in the conversation, we actually were talking about who was the best player on the team in the sense, because someone was saying that, like, disrespect Steph or something along those lines. Like, he doesn't regard Steph as highly, and he didn't think Steph was the best player on the team. And most of us were like, I mean, like, that doesn't really bother me, like, because he shouldn't. He should think he's the best, right? Like, James Harden thinks he's the best player, right? So if you're like one of those guys, like, they should all think that they're the best. So I don't have a problem with that. But that was like right at the moment when Shadow, who was the other person who people seem to like be having a field day with, that was in Toronto. And Shadow was like, oh, hey guys, welcome Kevin Durant to the Spaces. So I'm like, what? So now, I look and sure enough, it's KD. So at that point, we don't even know how long he had been listening to our conversation because we didn't notice him at first. So, when people were just like, oh, you should have been asking this, ask Matt. Like Katie was like, he knew what that space was about and what he was getting into. Like he was not expecting a, ESPN Maria Taylor interview. Like that's not, and Katie knows Urkel. Like if you're on Twitter, Urkel. Like he knows Urkel's, allegiances, he knows.
He replied to Urkel one time like a while back.
Yeah,
I think Urkel made a joke about being 35B before, and he was like, "Nah, we good."
Yeah, so I mean, he knew what was up. So the kind of the overreaction from people like, "Oh, you had KD," and like I just thought people were doing the most. Like Katie didn't really seem bothered by it. I actually think he was probably pretty amused, and it was cool. It was definitely a cool moment. So like we kept getting kicked out. It was crashing. Urkel was getting kicked out. So like there was a point in time when like Katie was talking and then he just wasn't there. And I was saying to people, I was just like, I really want to hear what Katie has to say. Like he obviously joined for a reason, right? Like everything transpired today on the TL and then he joins our spaces. So he either wants to like clear the air, get something off his chest. He got something to say. So I want to hear what he has to say. So I'm like, this stuff about best and if Steph helped him, like this doesn't really matter. Like that's what I was saying. So that's the point in time that I think like people were on and when they heard me, they were kind of like running with, like, oh, listen to Nat kind of stuff. But when Katie did come back, I was actually about to ask him a question when I got kicked out because Urkel was trying to give me, the floor. He was like, Nat. And then like I started to speak and then it was like, I don't know what happened, but I got kicked out and I couldn't get back in after that. So I never like directly asked him any questions. But yeah, I was on there at the beginning when he came in. And yeah, I was one of the speakers and it was a fascinating day and it was like great to be a part of it. And I think all the people who are mad are just upset that they were not a part of it, so I felt like it was a lot more envy than actual real constructive criticism. And there are things to constructively criticize. And like I had that conversation with Urkel and he knows like he's actually a really intelligent person. People may not think that, but he is. So but I thought it was dope. I thought like, if anything, it should be like, wow, like Katie came to Urkel Spaces. That's like incredible that he pulled that off.
But that's my favorite thing about KD, even though it like annoys me when he goes back and forth. But like I hate when he goes back and forth with like the obvious trolls who aren't saying anything. But like when he actually goes in spaces and chits it with you guys, and then like in the recordings he's actually talking hoops and like breaking down his side of the whole story. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, like I think it's kind of dope too because he doesn't like condescend to you. He's not like, like the way everyone was so offended that they were talking, double teams and traps with KD. He was like really sitting there saying like, so what's the difference? Like just talking, like whatever. In his head, he might have thought, oh, these fucking novices, what do they know? But he wasn't talking to anyone like that, and I do think it's really dope. I think that's probably one of the most interesting and fascinating things about him, that he does that. So, when people think it's really weird or they're just like, you care too much what people think, like, nah, like the thing is, he's really no different than any other player. It's just, he's just doing it. Like they all care what people think. We're human. We care what people think. Like people think because these guys have money, like that they're not human. They are.
Exactly. He's a regular dude too. So he from around the way. Like I work with dudes who said they and my lead worker, I worked at House of Merit. He said he used to hoop with KD and like AAU growing up.
Where are you from? Not Boston?
No, I'm from Virginia.
You're from Virginia?
I'm from Virginia.
Like the DMV?
Yes, I'm from Central Virginia. DMV is like North Virginia.
Yeah, Northern. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're like more Central?
I'm from Central Virginia. I currently live in DC and I work in Maryland. So Maryland is it's right across the street.
Like near PG County?
Yeah, I work in PG County.
You work in PG County?
Yeah, okay. So my lead worker used to hoop around there growing up. He said he played against KD and Beasley and Jeff Green and all them guys like growing up and stuff. And
Yeah.
like I'd be forgetting where I'm at some days. Cause like during the Bucks and Nets series, I would always walk past me. They'd be like, "Yeah, we gotta get home and watch the Nets game." And I'd be like, these people like basketball. Now I'm like, that's right. KD is the guy, the man from around here. So they rush at home to go watch him.
Right. I mean, whenever someone's from around the way, you always show them love, right? That's why, like, even though all Warriors fans hate Danny Green because they blame him for Clay's injury, like, he's from around the way. I can never, like, not show him love, you know?
And, if you guys show the hometown guys love,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wish I had some.
definitely.
I wish I had some hoopers from my area to show love. But one day,
Where was AI from?
AI's from Norfolk. That's like coastal, like Virginia, I guess you could call it.
Okay. But isn't that,
Like
like,
near the beach and stuff.
close enough?
Like him, that's where like for no, I mean it's close enough, I guess. That's where him, Michael Vick, Pharrell, Missy, that's where like all that from.
Yeah,
So they all
Norfolk.
grew up in that area, and I grew out in like the country middle somewhere. But close enough, like Chris Brown, mama lived probably
I've
like
been
an
out
hour
there
or so
once
away.
before to
Yeah,
Norfolk, not like, I mean, I don't know VA like that, but yeah. And I used to actually work in Northern Virginia, like in Crystal City,
yeah,
Alexandria, that
like near
area.
the Pentagon.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, back to basketball. But the finals, though. So before we delve into, why do you hate Chris Paul so much? Where did the hate? I understand why somebody would hate him. I just want to know what the starting point of your hate was.
Is this something that people want to know?
That's something I want to know.
I mean, look, probably it started with Rondo, right? Like, I just feel like if you fuck with Rondo, you didn't fuck with Chris Paul. And then, I'm a Warriors fan, and we had, like we had him with the Clippers, and then we had him with
The
the
Rockets.
Rockets, and like we hated both teams. Oh my
Boy,
God.
I know you was tight when he hit the shimmy.
I was just like, shimmy now, bitch. You'll be, we'll be having the last laugh. And we surely did. So, like he's a, he's a just my.
I get it. I get it.
I'm Jamaican, and we have this thing we say, like, my spirit don't take you, my spirit don't take someone. So that's just like, I guess it's kind of similar to someone being like, yo, the energy wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? So when I meet certain people, or like, I mean, I've never met him, but just like when you see him and the way he talks and you hear stories about him, I'm just like, nah, yo, my spirit don't take him. And he'd be doing some real hoe shit on the basketball court. And like, I don't think that whole behavior should be rewarded.
I understand the flopping and the complaining and the flailing. It does get annoying. Like when
And
he was,
like intentionally trying to hurt Giannis, and
yeah,
and all the dirty plays over his career.
yeah, it is a little harder to actually root for him. So I like the root for him. So I like the way he played. But that first year of him and Harden together, like during that series with y'all, when they be on the run, then both of those two would like just start flopping out of nowhere, it would irritate me so bad.
Yeah, someone was in my mentions today, like, oh, he's 6 feet. Yeah, but he's short for a basketball player, so he still got the Napoleon complex. You can't convince me otherwise.
I believe it. I'm not even sure he's actually 6 feet if you take his shoes off.
Yeah, I'm just like, man, I don't want to hear nothing about Chris Paul. I want him going out of here, out of here. The only thing I'm upset about is that, I'm rooting against Monty and Book, and I don't want to, but I can't have Chris Paul winning.
I understand. But
And,
Paul been coming. No, go ahead.
No, I mean, this is not like real. It's me joking, but I'm just saying, God has been so good because he's so far eliminated every evil so far this postseason. The Lakers out of here.
He has. The Nets out of here.
Which were the two biggest evils. So everything after that, honestly, was frosting on the cake. But if he gets Chris Paul out of here, yeah.
Oh, man. I like Chris Paul, though, even though, like I said, the irritation and the stupid stuff aside, his fans have really been, like, driving me crazy the last month or so. Especially after Saturday's game, where everybody was like, how can you blame him for this loss? And it's like, he did nothing for, like, 3 quarters. Like, did we watch the same game?
Yeah, no, like before it was all him, but now he shouldn't get blamed. Fuck out of here.
They're like, he's passing the guys who are wide open. And you'd be like, okay, well, don't do it yourself. And they like, he's 36 and can't move, yada, yada, yada.
I don't want to hear it. Same shit.
I
I'm
don't
telling
wanna
you,
hear
they
it.
have to also be Braun fans because they come from the same. It's the same arguments. 1 minute it's like year 18, however fucking old Braun is, and then the next minute it's like, come on, you know he's older, like he's like, come on, come
Like,
on.
you don't use that excuse. You used to use it like all season and use it in like proper context.
Right.
Don't tell me he's the point guard when he's scoring on the Nuggets 10th and 11th man because they have to start. And then when he's lined up with the best defender in his position, now you want to pull out the he's 36 and can't beat guys off the dribble. Like, well, okay.
I mean, half the time in that Denver series, like when he was like doing his thing, it was like at the end of games when they were like up big and people were just like, oh, like, fuck out of here.
The point guard.
Booker already did all the dirty work. Yeah.
And Booker and Aiden hoop and the league get cut down for like 10-7 and Chris Paul hits some J's and it's like, oh, and it's like, bro, y'all are so. Well, I'm trying to be a fan, but y'all are unbearable right now.
And how about Ayton? What a debut for him. I mean, also obviously Book, but I mean, I think Ayton's been really impressive.
I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, definitely. And Booker, like, I mean, 24, like, come on. He is, for his first finals, no matter the outcome, he did the damn thing.
He did it.
You know, it still could be a game 7.
41 in back-to-back games with like little to no help for like multiple stretches too.
Incredible.
And those games are games they barely lost. So
and the audacity of a reporter afterwards to ask him how frustrated does he feel for Chris Paul. Did you see that shit?
I seen that. That was OD disrespectful. This
it's
man.
Like they asked Kyrie about Braun being a father figure. Like, what the fuck?
You know, the first player to ever have 40 and back-to-back L's, and you'd be like, how frustrated are you for this?
Like, how frustrated is he for himself? How about that?
About Chris right now, exactly.
Yeah, like, it's like they think he's there just to give, you know, Chris Paul a ring.
You should have asked how frustrated he is at Chris Paul for letting Drew tuck him in the corner for, like, most of the game.
Exactly.
So,
and Drew finally decided to show up for a game.
Yo, Drew was hilarious. I said to myself, I said, watch this be the game where Drew finally do it. And they got down 16.
There's always going to be one, right?
It's always going to be one. Then they got down, I was like, oh, so it's not this game. Then he started leading the comeback. I said, oh, so this is game. My pick was Brooke Lopez finally having a game in his life.
Brooke. You know, it's just really interesting, though, like all of this Giannis bias, right? I mean, like people are going out of their way to try to give like someone legit was arguing with me about why Drew should be finals MVP. And I was just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like
Drew has actively prevented them from winning. This might be like a 5-game series and Drew shows up like 2 games earlier.
You know, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. I'm sure you've seen all the tweets about the xenophobia and everyone talking about it. And people are like, I don't think that's what it is. It's interesting because that probably is what it is. But, you know, I think there's other things at play. I don't think it's just that. Yeah. I think like Giannis is not part of the in crowd. I think him saying like he didn't want to work out with them, you know, when he was first invited. I think things like that.
And he doesn't play the way that guys want him to play at the
Twitter, you know.
Because some years ago, I didn't like Giannis that much, but that's because like we had to play them in the playoffs, and he was just like being himself, and it's just irritating to watch him like just some of the fouls he gets. So like from a fan perspective, his style of play can turn people off.
Yeah, no, he's not enjoyable to watch. It's better now, but back then it was. Yeah, no. If I had to pick a player that would be the first to watch, it would not be him.
Exactly.
But I've always been more of a finesse player kind of person anyway, so you know that makes sense. But I think, you know, I saw. Oh God, you know, I hope this doesn't get like posted and people are like, she's xenophobic. But I saw, I don't remember the guy's name on, I think it was one of those Fox shows, and he was making an argument that Giannis can't be the face of the league.
I
And
just saw that before we got on.
yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't think that his argument was that eloquent, but I do think that people don't completely understand what face of the league means, like face of the league, yeah, is typically, the best player or one of the, top players. But it's also someone who has like a crossover commercial appeal, like not just like, oh, you're a basketball superstar, but you're like a superstar, like rock star, like, everyone cares about you, like you cross over to all different races, like things like that. And so I wouldn't say that Giannis can't be that, but I think that like the public tells you who they love, right? Like that's what I think. And so when you look at a player like if you look at the people who were the past faces, or at least who I view, right? So you take Magic Johnson, and you could argue it was Magic and Bird, right? Like that they were like co-faces, because that's kind of how I view Steph and LeBron now. So, but you had like Magic and Bird, and particularly though Magic was like incredibly charismatic. He had the smile. It wasn't just like, oh, he was flashing, he did these passes, but there was something about his persona and things like that. So people really gravitated towards him, right? And then you think of Michael Jordan, I mean, self-explanatory, right? And then you think of like a Kobe, good looking, well spoken, like,
We think of, or Shaq, who's like just a super fun guy. Off the
right,
court, you see him in movies, a lot of commercials, and he's always doing something goofy, making people laugh. So
right. And then Bron, who's like a physical specimen, right? And just
and then
like
Bron got the whole story too. Like Bron got the from nothing to something story.
right,
He just raised by a single black mom in
right,
Cleveland, and hometown team drafts him. So
right. And then you have Steph, who's like pretty and kids love him, and his whole family, Aisha and Riley. It's there's validity to what he's saying. It's not like, I mean, because Giannis shows us his family, so all the stuff about us like not knowing him, like I don't think that that's true. But just in general, because there's been like a rush to be like, who's the next space? And I think it's interesting because I'm just like, unless Bron or Steph are retiring like in the next year, I don't think any of these guys are, at least right now, surpassing them in popularity. I mean, you could see it like just like in the all-star votes, right? Like KD, Bron, and Steph, it was them, and then like everyone else, right? There was like a significant gap in between them. Now, usually after winning a championship, coming off of something like that, let's see what happens with Giannis, next year, because the public tells you, who they want, right? If you think of someone like most of the other guys, the NBA tried to push them, but if you think of someone like Steph, the NBA wasn't pushing Steph. He just kind of
he took it,
right? And kids loved him, and he was this phenom. And so like the consumer is always going to tell you like who they want. And I feel like they're trying to force Luka, it was Giannis before. And then like they kind of went away from him because of the way the postseason went the last couple years. Then they tried to do Kawhi for a year. And then like, it's Luka. And I'm just like, I don't think it's any of these guys, and it's not any of them yet. It's not like I don't think they are surpassing Bron or Steph in popularity right now. Or in the future.
I don't see it either. But the interesting thing about Giannis potentially is that he is kind of like a goofy guy, and he has a lot of like international appeal too.
Right. So no, he definitely does.
Yeah. So like financially for the league, you could push Giannis, since that's a whole nother country of fans and like continent of fans he appeals to. He's the first big like international guy, unless like not count Luka yet, that you had in like forever, I guess.
Seems like they want to push the one who's from Europe a little bit more.
It does seem that way. They trying to anoint Luka like super early, but Luka doesn't. I don't know. He doesn't have like a personality appeal to people. I don't think.
This is what I keep saying, and you know, because I don't really speak that great about Luka. People are just like, oh, you don't like him. I know some white guy was like in my mentions, like, you're racist. I was like, oh, okay. You know, like, I'm like, Luka is not like, I mean, football's a little different, right? But like Tom Brady, right, has that kind of like look and appeal, right? And it doesn't mean that Luka can't get that, because, you know, players, if you look at like what Steph looked like when he was younger versus now, he was like, I mean, Steph is still corny, but he was like super goofy and, you know, like he looks way different. So we don't know what the evolution of Luka will be, but like right now in this moment in time, he doesn't like present to me as like, yeah, this is like who you're going to market.
Yeah.
And, like, he's not like smooth or,
you know. Like another example of a guy who wasn't the face of the league, but forever he was like super popular, like Melo. Like you remember back when LeBron and Melo first got drafted, and Melo was just like the coolest looking guy. Like, and he had the game to match. He had the personality. He's from Baltimore. He rocks cornrows in like early 2000s.
Too was like another,
yeah, like
not exactly. Like these face, but
yeah, like these guys just had the look that resonated and the personality that resonated with people. Yeah. And it's like when you look at the kids now that are coming in, it's like they're super talented, but their personalities are like really boring.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think you know, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think people to keep an eye on. I mean, right, who's like the next crop? So there's Luka, Giannis, Tatum. I would say we Book in there, and Zion, right? Like I would say those are, I guess, you know, Atlanta fans might kill me, so let me throw Trey in there.
Yeah, Trey.
And Ja, maybe, I don't know. I would really love to see De'Aaron Fox on another team because
that's a lot of flair right there. So
yeah,
we shall see them. So, well, like you said, Brian and them ain't going nowhere for another 4-5 years. So
no,
so we got some time.
Y'all can put this next face of the week to bed. Every time I see it, I just roll my eyes like, oh, okay, Steph Curry going somewhere? Because he's not.
They're saying today that if Giannis win, this is kind of the transition from the LeBron, KD, Steph guys to the next generation. It's not.
They told us the same thing about Kawhi. It's not.
Kawhi was the most forced, like.
I mean, I think this one is forced too. Like people love storylines. Like Giannis is dominating. He is dominating, and he has been great, and he has impressed me because I was saying all kinds of shit about him in the Brooklyn series because, like, you were taking the threes, you were playing stupid, and I don't care what anyone says. They can get mad at this, but they did look scared. They were playing scared.
They did.
And I tweeted that. I was like, you know what annoys me is like, yo, he plays mad, like scared. And I don't like that. Like, even if you're going to lose, just fucking go out, like, not like, you know, giving a fuck. And so
it's like he had to grow up in a sense. He finally has grown up the last 5-6 games or so that we've seen him.
He did. And we've been watching it. So it's been amazing to see that evolution. And I'm really happy for him. I am. But like, there's no part of me who thinks that he is better than the guys who've been the guys. I just, you know, I don't see it. And the Suns, yes, are a worthy opponent, but like, it's the Suns.
And there's nothing wrong with you saying that because the guys who are the guys are like fighting for top 5, 10, 15 ever slots and still have some years left to go. So it's like,
right, you know, and I'm like, I don't think it's any disrespect to say he's the 4th best player in the NBA. And like, that's where I'd put him only because like Kawhi is going to be out. Right. And so that's where I put Giannis. And like Giannis could maybe, you know, to me, I still think Katie and Steph are 1 and 2, whichever order you have them in. I'm not someone who still thinks Bron is the best, but he's still very elite. However, his age is starting to show. Anyone who suggests that it's not is just lying. And so I need to see right now. I'm giving the deference to Bron because I think he deserves that respect. But I need to see what he looks like coming back next year before I'm gonna say like Giannis, jumps in front of him too. But I mean, when I watched the Nets series, there was no point in time that I thought, oh, Giannis was better than KD, right? Even though Giannis's team won, I did not think that. I mean, but for KD's foot on a freaking line, he wins that game for them. So that's why you can't just always pay attention to outcome. And I know people will be like, oh yeah, but you're Warriors fans, that's what you do. You ignore all the injuries and da-da-da-da. And look, I don't want to like relitigate everything with the Warriors, but like there's so much things that people ignore about the Warriors, like the fact that they won 67 games that year and 73. Like that's historically great. The number of teams to win that many games and then go on and win the championship favors them versus not, right? Same thing. NBA usually the better team wins. So like I get that, yes, the series would have looked different if people weren't hurt and they played. But like, no, I think they would have won. I really do. They were the better team. And like people who try to say, oh, that 2016 proved whatever, didn't prove anything to me. It proved that like you could win a 7-game series when you get Draymond Green suspended a game and Steph Curry's playing on one fucking knee. Like that's what that proves to me. So, but like I don't think the Bucks this year, in past year, the Bucks were like sort of dominant, not sort of, they won, a lot of games, but they weren't the most dominant team this year. They had their struggles. They were still really good. And like near the end of the season, they kind of started to like put it together and they were like better, but like they were struggling a little bit, this year. So they weren't as dominant, and
Giannis missed some games due to injury too, which kind of messed up a lot of their rhythm. So
Right. And their dominance, like, look, people don't like to say it, but their dominance was in the East. And we can't ignore that. The dominance was in the East. And while the East is better, the top half of the East is better, it's still not the West, And so, like, I don't qualify championships. Like, he gets the credit for winning like the way any other champion does, but I'm not, because of this first win, if it comes, gonna say like he's the best player in the league now. Like that's not how I do it.
I'm not mad at, because like I said, that's no not because the guys at the top are still like, we saw him and KD match up for 7 games, and it's like it's no knock on Giannis, but KD was crazy.
Exactly, and the thing about it is like to me, when you like, so I like to put players in tiers, right? And so the whole like 1, 2, 3, 4 doesn't like even matter that much to me, because like to me, there was a tier of guys, right? So it was always like Bron, KD, Steph, and debatable, like probably that Kawhi is in that tier, right? So that's like how I looked at it. And then it was just like, you could be 5, but like, I never thought like, for example, like there are times I had James Harden 5, but I never had him in that same tier with those guys. So like I tweeted the other day that like Giannis is 4th, but the difference now is like I put him in the tier with those guys. And, there were some people like killing me for that. But I'm just like, I don't think that's disrespect to Giannis to say you're 4th behind those 3 and that you are in the same tier as them. Because at that point, when you're like that kind of a player, it's the little things that separate like who's better, right? Because they're so close. So I'm sorry, like, yeah, I do prefer the guy who can make the free throws. I prefer the guy who's maybe not a liability on some level at the end of the game, or like not even a liability. I shouldn't say that, but the one who like, we got to make sure that he's not necessarily having the ball because he's going to get fouled and may not, those things matter to me. And those are going to be like kind of to me the difference. And some people might say, well, look, I'm going to put him over Steph because, he's a better defender. Okay, fine. You can say that. I won't agree. But like my point is that you're gonna have like all of these different points. So I don't really see why people get so like they feel so adamant that he wins this year. Now he has to be catapulted, you know, to number one. He's just not the best. And so I'm not gonna do that just because he won.
And it's not taken away from his moment either because he's still getting his moment.
He's had his moment. He's been incredible.
He's what you could consider like a all-time finals, like
he
individually.
Is. I mean, his numbers are insane. What is he like? He's like 68% or something like that.
He's like 32. He's like what is he? 32, 13, and 6, I think.
Nuts.
That's like Shaq and Tim Duncan type numbers. So
yeah, he's incredible. But you know, he's a basketball player and not a hooper.
He's not a hooper. He's not a hooper. You won't catch Giannis in the rec, doing the runs at UCLA like you would KD. You know.
He won't be at the Rucker.
No, he won't be at the Rucker. He's gonna be in Greece somewhere. You know, giving back. So he's not a hooper. You know. He didn't pick up a ball till he was like 16, 15. So it's not a hooper. You know.
Oh, you heard the reason why Clay ain't a hooper?
Yeah, because his dad made him watch film. Oh, that was funny. But I hate that debate. I get what he was trying to say, but you can't. But you can't.
But I'm just like, what was he trying to say? Like everyone who says it in paraphrase, it sounds bad.
So he's trying to like classify like playground style versus like organized professional.
Yeah, I think we all understand that.
But you can't say Hall of Famers aren't hoopers. You sound nuts if you frame it that way. So that's
Kevin
why
Looney's a hooper, but not fucking Tim Duncan.
Exactly.
Like,
so
what
you
are we
can't
saying?
say that. That's never gonna sit well with anybody. There's like you can explain it, you can make sense, but when you keep going back to such and such isn't a hooper, like they said LeBron isn't a hooper, and it's like, what? That's nuts. You can't say that. To me, this really
does sound like bag, no bag. I mean, that's really what
it is what it sounds like.
And that's why I'm just like, everyone trying these like explanations. I'm like, son, this is the he has a bag, he doesn't shit. Like that's all this is. And
or you find this guy entertaining to watch, but this guy died. That's all he had to say.
Right.
That's all he had to say. But he had to, and then
which is why it's really funny to me that someone would say Steph is a basketball player because he's like the best show on earth in basketball. So that's like insane to me.
Exactly. You know, Kendrick Perkins talking about John Stockton couldn't go to the Drew League to get a shot.
Kendrick Perkins has me blocked, so I'm happy that I don't see him.
Yeah, you're not missing out. Carry on. Oh man, that man's a trip. But now, so one thing about this finals that's impressed you from either team.
About this finals?
Yeah. Most impressive thing for you from either team.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be like the Suns, honestly, and just like how well-rounded that team is. I mean, they can really throw a lot of different looks at you, you know? And I think when Booker does take the next step, because he does, like he still has to raise his game to another level. But I think when he becomes that level of player, then, you know, it doesn't matter. Because I don't think they need Chris Paul. Like, I don't think he needs to be there next year. They need to pay the money to their young guys, and he's going to want another payday. And I think we saw that campaign is pretty good, you know.
He's serviceable for a year or two.
He's serviceable. And so, I mean, I don't know what other PGs may be out there because I don't think they're trying to spend money like that. Like, I think someone like a Kyle Lowry would have worked there too, but he's probably going to be expensive. But my point is that when Booker takes that next step, I think like if he was just like a little bit higher level of player, like I think they still might be able to beat the Bucks. I mean, these games are like close, right? They're not, you know, and it's because Giannis is the best player in the series. So to me, like I do think, because I mean, Giannis is the best player. But then I would then argue that the second, third, and fourth best players are probably on the Suns, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it depends on where you put Middleton, but like of the 5 best players in the series, the Suns have 3, right?
Absolutely.
And I always said coming into this, I'm just like, look, the Bucks should win because they have Giannis, but their coach is an idiot. So I don't know. I mean, he's been better. So I mean, I guess we got to give him credit.
Yeah.
But he definitely has been better. But like the Suns are just a really well-rounded team. I mean, you got Johnson coming off the bench. I mean, they're deep. Like, to me, they are what people thought the Golden State Warriors were when they kept saying, "Oh, they're so deep. They're so deep." You know, they let the strength in numbers bullshit like fool them. But like, this team is actually truly deep, and I think that is impressive. And so, you know, we'll see what kind of team they're going to be next year, because I've had this conversation before, and some people are like, oh, they're going to still be like a top 4 team. I don't know about that. I mean, assuming the Lakers are healthy, assuming Golden State, well, we don't know what they're going to do, but let's just assume, you know, Golden State is somewhere in the mix. I think a healthy Denver could possibly be a top 4 team. You know, the Clippers are the only one where it's going to be interesting, because with Kawhi hurt, I don't know what they're going to do. But I mean, Paul George was playing a high level of basketball, you know, and I still think the Clippers, I don't think they can win it all, but I think they're going to still be in the mix. So it'll be interesting to see what the Suns look like next year, especially to see who stays and, like, you know, who comes back. So I don't think that they're going to fall off a cliff, but, you know, it'll be interesting to see are they going to come back and dominate and be kind of like, when the Warriors won their first ring, and then people thought like that was a fluke. So like, they weren't even favored after the first ring. The Spurs,
they really weren't.
and
the healthy, and remember the Thunder, because KD had missed the previous season. What is that's when his foot had.
Yes, right. So they weren't even favored, and then they came back and was like, oh, okay. Steph was like unanimous, 73 went right, and so. I don't see that, but like, people didn't see that for the Warriors, and then it happened. So it'll be interesting to see how, like, if the Suns don't win this year, what they come back to do.
I definitely think this is the Suns. I think the Suns will have like a 1-year peak. You know how some teams just everything aligns like the season,
right?
And they might fall back off, and like that's not a knock, because we just saw with the Heat in the bubble last year. Everything had to go right for them. I don't think
they're going to fall out of the playoff picture, but I don't think that they're going to have another chance to win it all unless another circumstance like this plays out.
Unless this plays out, unless Ayton makes a leap, maybe Mikal Bridges or somebody might become a 20-point per game scorer out the blue.
Right.
Or maybe Chris Paul might take like a discounted deal to stay down it.
I doubt it. But Aiden's going to get better. And so I think Aiden's development is something to watch. You know, but that could be, if the Bucks don't make any changes to their roster, I
think this is their 1-year P2.
Yeah, like, I mean, you have that beast of the Nets. You have the Celtics coming back, and I'm really interested to see like what Brad is going to do, right? I don't know what the Sixers are gonna do, but I don't think it's gonna be easy for the Bucks to come back.
Sure won't. Giannis gonna get better, but this might be the peak of Drew and Middleton. I didn't believe in Drew and Middleton like 2 weeks ago, so that's my most impressive thing. Is that they're finally. It is to me anyway. Because like you said,
Middleton always plays well at home, right? So I mean, this was like the last game he played well.
Exactly. But like you said, they hadn't been playing smart ball at all. And they started this series playing really foolish, especially defensively. But then game 3, when Bud finally made the switch to just tell Drew to go harass Chris Paul all game, and that's when it swoop. And they're taking a bet to say, hey, take Chris out the game and live or die by Devin Booker beating you all game. And it's been paying off. So, and it's on the they're one away. So
that's what I'm saying. If he was just, but if he was, that's what I'm saying. Like, if Booker was just like a little bit higher level of a player, like
maybe a better 3-point, maybe a better 3-point shooter, so he can take more efficient from 3. So some of his contested mid ranges become like deep threes that he might make or so.
Yeah, because his first couple of games in this series, like even though he scored a lot, they were somewhat inefficient, the scoring. So when he gets more efficient, can get a little better with his three ball consistently. If he gets a little bit more of like an off ball game.
Yeah. If he gets a point guard who can, beat his man off the dribble next year.
Yes.
Without 1,001 screens.
I mean, honestly, the Suns have looked better when Chris Paul wasn't out there with them,
Yeah, because the Suns are like a downhill type team that need the pace to be in their favor.
Right, and he slows them down.
Yeah, and it really hasn't been there with Drew on his hip, which is making Booker have to do a bunch of dribble moves and settle for these tough contested shots. Because if Chris Paul can't operate, then that's taking all the role players out the game too. And It's not on Booker. It's not Booker's fault. He's doing an incredible job, like all things considered. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I really like Book, and I always have, and I'm happy for him because the way people used to act like he wasn't like real and empty stats, so I was just like, y'all crazy. So I'm really happy for him, and I really wish I could root for him. And look, they could still win. I mean, we're all talking like it's ending tonight, but like the Bucks need to end it tonight.
They do.
They need to end it tonight.
But game about to start, so let's get to it. So the end every show when I have a guest, I do a top 5 segment where I pick out a handful of questions and get your personal favorites on them. So you ready?
Okay. All right.
So the generic basketball question, I'm gonna get your 5 favorite players ever.
My 5 favorite ever?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Wow. Okay. Magic. Steph. Rondo.
Hey, Game. 2 more. Who's not gonna make the cut?
Oh, this is tough.
2 more.
I don't know if I can give you 2 more.
You gotta tough it out. There's no 2 names out there.
Kevin Garnett.
One more.
Tim Duncan.
Ooh, that's a nice 5 though. All right, you a little iffy on the last one. Let it slide though. All right.
I mean, that's hard,
Yeah, I feel you.
Paul George might be an honorable mention. I really do love Paul George.
All right, next question. Let's talk about some music. Let me get your 5 favorite singers.
Oh my gosh, we're going to music now. Okay. Singers. Whitney. I don't know. Mary. Can it be groups?
Mm-hmm. Name some groups.
Usher. I have my boy groups.
Let me get the boy group.
But I have my girl groups too. Oh.
All right. Throw me one of each. Throw me one of the boy and the girl.
Okay, it's hard. I'm trying to decide between Boys to Men and Jodeci. Like, all the dudes love Jodeci, but like, Boys to Men had the love songs, but I think I'm gonna go Boys to Men.
Boys to Men, all right.
And for the ladies, oh shit, this is hard.
You're one of them girl groups. Who the ladies you rocking with?
Oh man, come on, this is mad hard.
When you wake up to clean the house Sunday morning, you throw your scarf on. Which one of them girl groups you rocking with?
Let's go. Oh man, there's so many. I'm trying to decide between En Vogue and SWV. Let's go. Oof. SWV.
SWV. That's tough. That's tough. All right, last top five. That's gonna be a hard one. What's that thing? Let me get your 5 favorite actors. There we go.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna do
I
something.
think I've been prepared for these questions.
Nah, that's not fun though.
5 favorite actors. Rest in peace to the god Chadwick.
Mm-hmm.
Nia Long.
Okay.
Michael Ealy. Whew.
Oh,
Michael Ealy. Oh goodness.
Get a grip.
I will not get a grip. That man is.
Sumo.
Let's just put Denzel in there.
Denzel, the god.
And maybe Angela.
Angela Bassett.
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii, word. Hawaii, there we go. See, that one's so hard.
It was very hard because I don't even know. Because I feel like if someone was to ask me this again, the answers might change. Like for a lot of these, like 3 of them are definitely it. You know, like I feel really strongly. Like I feel really strongly about Magic, Steph, and Rondo. I feel really strong about Michael, Chadwick, and Nia. But then the others are like, you know. But it's just like Denzel is so great. You got to respect, like, you know.
Trying to.
Right, you know, but so that's what I mean. So like the whoever was 4 and 5 in most of those lists.
they not set in stone.
Nah, KG is probably also set in stone. That was my guy. I know he's an asshole, but like I really, really, really loved KG.
Had to for sure. Well, I appreciate you kicking.
I lost you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I appreciate you coming on and kicking it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. Hopefully we can do this again.
Oh, absolutely. I got more Warriors questions to ask, especially going into the off season. So we get you back on.
Yeah, like once we see some moves they're making, maybe after they do their draft picks and you know, there'll be more Warrior stuff to talk about.
Yes, sir. Yes,
right,
ma'am.
fam.
But all right, now holla at you though.
All right, take care. Later.